I never lose, either I win or I learn. Those are my only options, to whomever it may concern. About to be a hot topic, play with fire, you get burned. Ain't nobody give me nothing, whatever I got, better I earn. I never lose, but I learn. I either win or I learn. Those are my only options, to whomever.
We learned the hard way. We fucked up. We're not perfect, but the lessons we learn in life, they make us who we are, and here we are, starting fresh.
And we're really excited to share our journey going forward with all of you so that we can hold each other accountable through the weight loss journey. Our journey started back in March of 2020. Actually, if you've listened to our podcast, it actually started well before then. We've been, on this weight loss journey pretty much our entire life. But this particular journey, or part of our journey, started in March of 2020, where together we lost over 150 pounds. But then life hit big time in 2021.
Injuries, depression, deciding to sell our home because we needed new space, downsizing with 5 people and 2 dogs and a 2-bedroom house, and all this stuff started to add up where our whole regimen and routine got out of whack, where we were eating trash.
Yeah. And so it really affected our mental state, our physical state. Those of you who have been following along on this journey, I know you can see a difference when you look at us, when you see this on YouTube. And that's why we've started this, our journey. That's what we're calling this, our journey, because it's not just us, it's all of us together. And so we have a whole new page on veganstrongandfit.com called Our Journey, where we're going to be talking about every week something that has led us to success, or maybe failure that we've learned from within the week to overcome and help us to continue on this. How we're going to do this the right way this time to make sure that we're able to support you, you're able to support us. And be sure to go on and follow us every week at veganstrongandfit.com/journey.
We're in this together.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Strong AF podcast. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Yuri.
And today we have an amazing guest couple, which we love interviewing our guest couples, as you've heard before. And tonight is really special because we have a guest vegan couple, which makes it even more amazing. We have Anna and Gabriel Zhanay, and they run their online vegan coaching company, Vegan Fitness Redefined, and they bring a blended approach to coaching vegans with Anna's years of experience as a vegan nutrition expert and Gabriel's experience as a vegan strength coach. They also have a unique combination of experience that allows them to coach uniquely with mindset, personal growth, and fitness strategies. And their mission is to create 1 billion vegans who are healthy and fit and positive role models for all health and fitness. So welcome. We are so glad to have you both on.
I feel like celebrating after. I'm like, woo, let's go.
Amazing introduction. Thanks for having us here.
Oh,
Yes,
I'm so excited to have you on. I was really happy when you reached out, and I was looking at your information. I was like, oh my gosh, they're perfect. We've got to get them on here. This is going to be an amazing show.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks for having us on. Seriously, we love your work too. Definitely looks like you guys are making a really, really great impact in the community. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, one thing that we are really passionate about, which is the whole reason that we created this podcast, the Strong AF podcast, we wanted to focus not only on vegan nutrition and fitness, which is great, but one of the biggest things behind any type of fitness and well-being is your mental state. And something that you both talk about, and I'm very passionate about, is mindset and really redefining that and the way that you look at health and fitness. So that's where we really want to dive into today.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think it's a great segue because, when we understand that all behavior is belief driven, right? When we understand what we do is a reflection of who we are, right? All the things in fitness and nutrition and all the health habits, it becomes a lot simpler because it's not even about like, oh my God, I'm not disciplined enough. Oh my God, I don't have enough will. No, it actually is a reflection of who we are, our identity, our beliefs.
Yeah. You started to say willpower there, and I hate that word so much because people say, oh, I just don't have the willpower to do it. You know, I would transition to vegan or I would work out, but I just don't have the willpower to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we can start to shift our beliefs, right? Our mindset, as you said, or even start focusing on mind training, right? Mental training, right? It makes the fitness, the nutrition, the willpower, quote unquote, so much more effortless because it's no longer like you versus you, right? Like, oh my God, I got to do that. I got to beat myself up. I got to do this. And then you self-sabotage in the evening. It's like, oh my God, I got to do this again. No, it's just about creating a new identity, creating a new value around who you are as a human being, and then making that your baseline.
No, I think that's wonderful because we put too much stress on ourselves when we think that we have to fit into this perfect diet or this perfect flow, and we're never going to stick to that because like you said, you're not changing your mindset, you're not defining this around who you are and your values and your morals, and so you're just doing something to do it. It's the popular fad at the moment, or whatever, but you're not actually changing who you are and what you believe and really focusing in on that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I just wanted to add that there is actually, we don't believe that there's a perfect diet or perfect way of doing anything, right? It depends actually what resonates with you, what resonates with me. Obviously, there are some guidelines, what is more nutritious when it comes to food that we are putting in, but then different things resonate with different people. So if we actually put this rigid, oh my gosh, you have to do it this way, it won't work for everyone, and it shouldn't, because we are different, right? So we need to embrace these differences. We need to see what actually works in our lives and then adapt that.
That's incredible that you say that, because a lot of coaches and trainers who are out there, they create plans around what worked for them, and then they try to put that on their clients, and that's not always going to work for their clients. And so the fact that you're able to sit there and customize based on everyone's needs, that's amazing, and that's what's really going to resonate with them.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Just wanted to add, because we work with different people, we see that different people, they have different health challenges. So it's really important to actually look at that and adapt that to them, help them. And then somebody else will have different challenges, maybe with their habits, and they need to work on those habits very slowly. So that's why this very individual approach and customizing everything, it's so, so important.
Yes. How do you set up those routines with your clients? What are some of the steps that you go through?
Great question. And I think, coming back to what Anna was mentioning about really having this more specialized approach, making sure that we have those touch points. When it comes, especially with fitness and health, there are overarching principles, right? So even though, like, let's say, maybe we specialize something for Yuri, like it has to be a special way for him, we'll still actually use the same overarching principles that we would use for Ashley or for Anna, for Gabriel. Like the same principles are in play. However, how those principles work, right, in the context of Yuri's life, his fitness, his body are going to be completely different. So some of the overarching principles, we believe in the order of priorities, right? Like focusing on what's the most important thing, like number one, right? Most people, they say, oh, these are my priorities, and they have 20 things. I'm like, that's not a priority. That's a checklist. That's a to-do list, right? So in fitness, because there's so much misinformation and disinformation, there's actually people spreading information that's not accurate, right? So there's misinformation and disinformation. So seeing through that kind of like that ocean of misinformation, we need to focus on a few main pillars. The first one we always coach on is a positive mindset, right? Focusing on what is within our sphere of control. Like, what can we control, right? In reality, we don't control so much, but we do control a few things. And these things are important: our thoughts, our words, and our actions, right? When we break down behaviors, obviously we can control how much we put in our body, what we put in our body, how much we move, right? But fundamentally, it's just thoughts, words, and actions. That's it. Everything outside, you know, the environment, the weather, family, emotions, you know, crazy people, like we can't control that as much as we would like to. You're like,
Right.
somebody in the street, like, oh, right? Like we can't,
Yeah.
right? We can actually control that emotion though, right? We can learn to work with it, process it, right? Especially when it comes to food and nutrition, and also in fitness too. But let me go back to nutrition. There is a large part of the population, right? Because of how we were raised as children, right? Especially here in the States, we were actually not taught how to work with our emotions in a productive way, right? We weren't taught that. So what happens, right? When it comes to food and eating, right? All these emotional patterns are showing up, right?
Oh yeah.
Binging, emotional eating, under eating, you know, all these different patterns, they show up because whatever we don't express, right, it gets repressed, it gets stored, right? They have studies that show if we don't express an emotion after 2 years, it gets stored in here, right? Physically, it gets stored, right? So it's not just like some spiritual woo-woo thing. Like actually, emotions are being studied and quantified. Oh my God, like you got tightness here, you got aches here. Yeah, that's probably something that was like stored, right? That was never processed. So the goal here is it's understanding, it's bringing self-awareness, right? If you get one action step from this, because I want to make this very tangible for everyone listening, it's bringing self-awareness. And how do you do this, right? There's a few ways to do this, but one of the most powerful ways is just sitting with yourself, like really being with it, right? Some people call this meditation. Some people call this just being silent, right? Whatever you call it, whether it's meditation or just being silent with yourself, even if it's just 1 minute a day, right? And you can scale that, right? Anybody can start with 1 minute a day. I started with 30 seconds, right? Hardest thing in the world, right? Growing up as an athlete, right? I'm like, I can do 2 or 3 workouts any day, right? I can do HIIT workouts. But then I remember doing my first like meditation session like 6 or 7 years ago. And I sat down in my living room, 5:30 a.m. after a HIIT workout, right? I'm like dripping sweat, 45 minutes HIIT. Shanti, let's go. Like, come on, man, let's go, right? Yuri's peeing his pants right now. He's like, holy shit, I was not expecting this. Right? I sat down, right? And I just closed my eyes. I counted 30 and I thought this was the hardest thing in my whole life I ever did. Not lifting heavy weights, and this was hard. And you know, it's with that practice that we can start to scale the awareness, right? Because going over to behavioral psychology, they've proven that 95% of our behavior is unconscious. We're not even aware of it, right? Carl Jung, all of his work, right, shows we're actually unconscious beings, right? It's not most of our day, we don't even know what we're doing. It's bringing the light of awareness, right? Getting aware. All right, well, every night, 9 o'clock, I go in my fridge and I eat 2 tubs of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, right? Oh, well, that's good to be aware of. Yeah, right? Because it's so unconscious, right? We just go there, we grab it, we put Netflix, and then boom, it's gone, right? So it's bringing that awareness, bringing that light, and then starting to apply it, right? Not just, oh, I know that. No, you start to apply it. You start to implement it, bring it to life.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely incredible because you have no idea how many times I've driven somewhere and because it's the same path every day, you know, sometimes I'm like, how the heck did I even get here? Like, I don't even remember going down that road.
I know for me, what you were talking about, like the foods that we eat, the effects it has on our bodies. Just think of people who eat animal flesh. These animals are tormented and mistreated and all this trauma that's going through them. And then that energy is digested by some individual. And they wonder why their mood and behavior is all off. And to myself, with clients and friends and stuff, they just talk about stuff while they're depressed and stuff like that. And in my mind, I'm like, I know what's the reason, but I'm not gonna be hateful and just tell you, that's the animal you're eating, it's the chicken you're eating, it's the pork you're eating. All this stuff is throwing you off. So yeah, I can definitely relate to the food and things we put in our body definitely having an adverse effect on the way we live our lives and how we feel, our mental aspects, disorders, disease, just countless things that play a role.
Absolutely. You know, when you think about it, there is no way that we can put, like you mentioned, animal that actually suffered, and we actually know what's happening there, right? In slaughterhouses. So it's actually the end, even if this animal was raised somewhere, but it was killed the same way in slaughterhouses or somebody on the farm. It's this fear. These are all the emotions. And then when we put in our body, like it doesn't evaporate, right?
Right.
It stays here. And then we have all this emotion, anger, right? Like so many people are angry, but when you think about it, putting this energy in, like, you know, we are not putting love inside, right? When we are putting the suffering. No, so we actually, this will go out. The anger will go out, any negative emotion. So absolutely, not mentioning like you said about different diseases and stuff like that, but even talking about emotions, such a huge impact.
And something too, and I think Yuri's point is so brilliant because it's there's many different reasons, to go plant-based or vegan or, to take care of your health and fitness. But, I think it's also important because I know there's so many people out there, they'll listen and be like, emotions, or it's like woo. I mean, everyone who's listening, we know that's not you, right? But we're just saying, assuming that there's a lot of people who have like emotions or, energetic sensitivity, all this stuff. Maybe it's not real. There's actually research with quantum physics, right?
Yes.
That actually proves that 99% of ourselves is energy. 99%. That's proven by quantum physics. If you break down a cell, go all the way to the atom, and you break it down, it's just energy. It's just energy bouncing in there all around the walls, right? So that means we as human beings, we're focused on the 0.1% of the physical, right? When everything else is energy. And why is this important? Because if you want, let's say somebody they haven't experienced maybe the benefits of being fully plant-based or vegan, right? And this is important because I think there's different motivations for it, whether it's for the animals, the environment, your health, maybe it's just for compassion. You're like, I care about others. I care about the animals, my family, whatever it is. But a very simple test, right? Playing off of what Yuri said, is actually test for yourself, right? How you feel. Go 1 month without eating animal products. Just go 1 month. See how sensitive you start to become energetically, right? With other animals. Try looking, and this is a great experiment. Actually try looking at an animal in their eyes, right? And then watch them be killed, right? Actually try that, right? Because it's with that connection, so visceral, right? Because we're so disconnected, right, from our food source. We don't even know what goes on there, right? There's a lot of stuff that's like, you think it's like a horror movie. Yeah, it's designed that way for a specific reason. It's crazy. I know this is kind of like the dark side of this, but it's like we can focus all day, right, on the mindset, on the training and nutrition. But the reality is, right, we need to also understand this kind of like this energetic aspect, this part that really connects us to everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfectly true. If you think about it, matter is not created or destroyed. It's only transferred. So if you're not destroying that matter when you slaughter the animal, you're transferring it into your body. It's a scientific fact.
It's physics.
Like you said, you had me at quantum physics. so now we're going to dig into, like you were saying, you're eating this animal flesh, all this low vibrational foods. But when you're digesting these fruits and these berries and high vibrational foods, it has a major impact on the way you feel. Like you said, everything just changes. It's like, to me, I always tell people, they're like, you seem like you feel better. I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm glowing. Going to a plant-based or a vegan lifestyle, it just feels like you have like the secret codes, like cheat codes in life. it's like Neo when he finally believed that he was the one. It's like you see all these numbers and frequencies and everything. It's like, what? Like this is amazing. It's like, y'all don't know about this? Y'all don't know what's going on out here in the world? Y'all missing out. And then people look at you strange, like, no, I don't want to eat this salads or this boring food, not knowing that there's so much out there, that there's hundreds or thousands of veggies and fruits that nobody has even tried. Because you remember, what's that one thing I think we still have in the fridge right now? That little small fruit.
Don't ask me to pronounce it. The rambutan. I don't know how to say it.
It looks like it's a small,
spiky, and then when you cut it open, it's almost like this gummy fruit inside.
It's like it has
I know, but I also don't remember the name.
Yeah, it's incredible tasting. It's hard to get off the seed, but it's really good.
Yes, it tastes like candy. And I'm like, this is a fruit. I'm like, it's just wow.
But honestly, fruits are actually really delicious. It kind of like, when you think about it, when you start eating more, like you said, more actually plant-based, more fruits, you start like actually your taste start changing when we don't put all this artificial sugar, all this like candies that you can buy in store, but you start actually eat living food, high vibrational food, then you start actually tasting it different. Like we think like, oh my gosh, this is like you said, this is a fruit. I had no idea, because we actually don't try so many. We actually go for the same foods. But when you think about it, how many fruits and vegetables we have, not even mentioning beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, it's abundance. And some of them we never tried and we never will, right? Because we kind of focus only on things that we know. So it's good to actually see that as vegans, we actually have abundance of food that meat eaters won't even try.
Yeah, and it really is crazy how your taste buds change. Like I remember when we first went vegan and we were trying out different restaurants and things, we went to what is now one of our favorite restaurants, Living Kitchen, where everything's organic, living kitchen, you know, there's a lot of raw vegan as well. And I tried it and I was like, this is okay. But, you know, obviously my taste buds were still used to the processed foods and things like that. So I was like, it's good. It's okay. Probably not my favorite yet. And then now it's like, oh my gosh, this is the best food ever. And then you try, like, there's still, I think, always going to be a place for the mock meats. I think it's great to help transition people. And it's also one of those like nice guilty pleasure type of foods as well. But any day, give me Living Kitchen over a Beyond Burger.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I totally relate. I think like you say, all the mock mix meats, they actually have their place, especially when we are sharing vegan foods with somebody who is not vegan, just to introduce. But then when you start actually like tasting the living food, right? Like we think like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. And I feel so much better after. I don't actually need to eat so much processed foods, because this is actually this salad, these fruits, they just taste amazing.
Yeah, especially when you think of the nutrition, like you were saying earlier, all these additives that they put in these foods. You're sitting there looking at the back of the label and you're like, I can't even pronounce half of this shit. You're like red 40, yellow 5, and all this other stuff, and titanium dioxide. You're like, what is this? This is in paint, and they put this in toothpaste and food because it whitens it and keeps it fresh, and it's just wild. If you pay attention and start to learn some of these ingredients, you're like, oh my goodness. Especially if you're going to fast food places like Chick-fil-A, you're getting a chicken sandwich and you go online and you say Chick-fil-A has like 50 different ingredients that's into it. You're like, what is this? This is chicken is chicken.
Yeah.
Now, what is all this other crap? It's just mind blowing.
It is. Yeah. And it's so interesting. It's like you read the label and you're like, oh my God, is this like a science lab or a chemistry experiment? Like, you're like, what is this?
And like you said, most of them we actually don't know how to pronounce them, but we have no idea what it is. You would have to actually spend time and Google that. Like you said, if there's 50 ingredients, like going through each of them. So probably if we don't know the ingredients, they are not the best for us.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so fun too. I don't know if you guys have kids or not, but like our kids are in the process of trying to learn and understand also what they're eating. And it's really interesting to go to the grocery store and they'll pick something up and they're like, oh, never mind, I don't want this. Like they can't even read, but they can see the size of the ingredients, you know. They're like, oh, I don't want this. That's got too much stuff in it.
Yeah, and children are very, very intuitive, right? They're actually most children are actually more connected than most of us, just because we have a lot of conditioning, right? We had a specific childhood, we were taught certain beliefs, especially if you're raising children to be more open-minded, right? And that can show up in a lot of different ways, how they eat, what they believe, all that. You know, it's amazing because not that we can't learn, our brains are very plastic, right? We can learn anything. But at the same time, it's like children, like they're so connected, like they can sense like, whoa, like this doesn't feel right, right?
Yeah.
It's because we condition them and we actually make them distrust themselves, that they're like, oh yeah, it's okay to eat animal products. Oh yeah, it's okay to, eat all this stuff. Oh, it's okay to have sugar every day. It's kind of like this condition. We cover up what they already know, what all of us know. Like we all know this.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think it's so beautiful. Like we don't have kids yet.
That we know of.
Full disclaimer.
Keep that to yourself.
Oh my God. But we are planning to. But I wanted to say, I think it's so important to actually, like, for vegan couples especially, right? Because we can actually teach kids since the beginning. They don't need to go through what we were going through, right? Because now we are saying, why nobody told me that? Like, this is like crazy. So we can actually introduce them when they are kids. And like Gabriel said, they would be more like intuitive. Obviously, if you give them a fruit or you show them a like chicken, right? They will always go for fruit. Like no kid will they will play with chicken, right? They will play with animals. They wouldn't even think like, oh, I will buy.
Right.
They will go for an apple or banana, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's so great that you mentioned that. We were actually at the store a couple weeks ago and waiting in line, and Cam's like, what are we gonna have for dinner when we get home? I was like, I don't know, we'll figure it out when we get back. He's like, can we have a salad with like some carrots and cucumbers and tomatoes and maybe some fruit on the side? And the woman in front of me, she just turned around, she's like, oh my gosh. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, this is normal.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's actually normal to be unhealthy. It is actually normal to be unhealthy, unfit, to be weak, to have diseases, to have chronic. That is normal. I want to be very clear. This is normal. We live in a society, right? I love this quote by Krishnamurti, right? It says, no measure of health is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. There's no measure of health. It's crazy, right? Maybe we're healthy, maybe we're fit, but for us to adjust to a sick society, that makes no logical sense. So what we're doing here, all of us, right? Even listening to this, if you're vegan, you're plant-based, if you're even just starting on what every single one of us is doing is so powerful. Even if it's just adding one fruit a day, one vegetable, right? It's crazy. This new thing, this fruit fear, right? I don't know if you guys have heard of this. Like, too much
This is
fruit.
new to me.
Oh, it's new to you? Oh, let me help you, Yuri. I got you, brother. I got you. Right? So this thing, a lot of women, a lot of guys, they're actually scared of having too much fruit. Adults.
Yeah.
Why?
From the sugar.
Yeah, exactly. The sugar, right? So first off, the sugar, it has too much carbs, right? So two things. Number one, fruits have fructose, right? Which is natural occurring sugar. So it is sugar, but you cannot compare this sugar to the processed, the junk food, all this crazy. What I'm listening to Yuri, I was like, oh, maybe I should take some notes because he's teaching me chemistry right now. He was like, yellow 5, red 10. I'm like, that's what we're talking about right now, right? That's what we're talking about. That's actually the stuff that shouldn't be going in our body. All the artificial sweeteners, the additives, et cetera, et cetera. So this fruit fear, right? So number one, all this processed sugar. And then number two, right, the carbohydrates, the fear of carbohydrates, like, carbs make you fat, right?
Yeah.
When in reality, when we understand the science, the evidence-based principles, yes, carbohydrates, they actually do store more water, right? For every 1 gram of carbs, you store 3 grams of water, but that's fine, right? Why? Muscles are 80% water. That is it's 60% of your body is water, right? So it's not that carbohydrates are bad, it's that the processed, the junk food, and all the ridiculous carbohydrate options, these are probably not serving us. So going back to fruit, you go to your children and you watch your children, they can eat fruit all day. Berries, bananas, oranges, ice creams, mangoes, everything, right? You make a banana smoothie, it's like, boom, they're good to go, right?
Yeah.
But you look at an adult and you look hard for an adult who eats more than 2 bananas a day. Look hard for an adult who eats 2 or 3 apples a day. Look hard for an adult who has 2 or 3 servings of berries a day. And we don't understand that fruits, they have the most nutrition out of any food group. Phytochemicals, antioxidants, vitamins and minerals, everything that we need, right? Not to diminish vegetables. Vegetables are great too. Whole foods are great, but fruits, You see how demonized that this, it's like backwards. Everything's backwards.
Right.
You get rid of the one group that can actually benefit you the most.
Because like you're saying, in the fruits and most green leafy vegetables, the H2O3 is actually better than the H2O. The H2O dries people out, but this water that's in these fruits, especially the higher fruits like the melons, the berries, the mangoes, the watermelon, all these watery fruits, that H2O3 is more beneficial than H2O. And like you were saying, I could be out somewhere, like when I'm at work sometimes, especially in the morning when I'm having break fast, as you call it. I'm sitting there, I got watermelon, I got blueberries, strawberries, dates, and all kinds of stuff. And people come by like, oh my goodness, that looks good. And I'm like, yeah, this is normal for me. It's like, you got all that fruit, man, that looks amazing. I'm like, yeah, do you want some of this? do you not like watermelon? Have you not seen people eat this way? It's like it's an anomaly, like they rediscovering something for the first time. It's like, yeah, this is normal to eat this way. That's why we call it break fast.
I totally relate to that because in the past, when I was working in the office, my colleagues always look at me so weird because I was bringing all this, I could have like 7 bananas on my desk and all the other fruits and my salad. And they always look at me like, you can eat all of this. I'm like, yeah. And they were wondering like, how come, I eat this huge amounts of fruits and vegetables and, I still look the same. Like, I think they were expecting me maybe to get a big one. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Because they had like, one fruit a day and they were looking for, once my colleague actually checked cookies and she was like, the cookies have raisins. It's one and 5 a day because there are raisins in cookies. And I was like, okay. So I'm not surprised that, your colleagues actually, they were like, oh, this salad looks amazing because it does.
Mm-hmm. That's how we feel shopping too, with that reaction of like how much you're getting, because we normally do our shopping at the farmer's market. Like, I don't even know, we might go get a couple things at the grocery store every once in a while, but it's just kind of like the one-offs. Most of our shopping during the summer months, at least, is done at the farmer's market. And we always get the big wagon to carry our fruits and vegetables in, because there's no, like, we started carrying the baskets and all of us would be carrying 1 to 2 baskets to go check out, and I was like, there's no way, we got to get the wagon.
It's crazy because I came up with maybe 3 weeks ago, I wrote on the refrigerator, I was like, okay, all we need is we'll get some peaches, we'll get some watermelon and some kind of leafy greens and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden we see, oh, we don't have that many tomatoes. Oh, let's grab this okra over here. Oh, let's grab these cucumbers. Let's grab that watermelon. Let's grab a cantaloupe. Let's grab this. And next thing you know, we get up to the counter and it's like, your total is $200. And we're like, wow.
We did it, right?
Right.
Yeah, but the
Especially
thing
with our
is,
kids.
yeah, exactly. And I'm guessing you'd prefer to invest that into your health, your nutrition, rather than pay that to the medical system or like, I got
exactly.
this. No, it does. Yuri brought up such a great point. It's actually proven that fruits are actually more hydrating, right? They're actually deeply hydrating on a cellular level, which is so important, right? Whether it's like the H2O or the H2O3, like, it's actually proven. And yet at the same time, right? I mean, obviously we're drinking water right now, but I'm just curious, like, why is it that most people, they don't like drinking water, right? That's a good question, right? Like, why are most people dehydrated, right? And why is 98% of Western Europe, why do they have non-fluoridated water when 60% of our country, the States, has fluoride in it? Why does our water have more chlorine in it than our pools? It doesn't make any sense. Right? So it's not just the food, right? I want to be very clear, like, our water is being polluted, right? We have fluoride, we have chlorine. We're told, oh, you need fluoride for your teeth, right? Your teeth are going to fall out. Isn't that why they have fluoride in the toothpaste? Why do I need to drink fluoride? Why do I need to drink chlorine that has higher levels in my pool? That doesn't make any sense, right? And so people now, they don't want to drink it. Like, you drink tap water, you're like, oh, this doesn't taste right, right? So people, they don't drink, so they're dehydrated, right? And so now it's a problem. Like, now people are dehydrated. And so now actually fruits become even more important. Coming back to the circle, they're hydrating you, right? They're actually giving you more, like you could say, quote unquote, like pure water, right? Living water, right? We're talking about living food, living water. We're not supposed to drink like dead water, right? Water that has heavy metals and toxins and whoever knows whatever they're putting in there too.
Absolutely.
And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, because you were both talking about quantities that you are buying, and we are absolutely with you on that, because we also buy huge quantities, but we actually experience that with a lot of people. They actually buy fruits, like, you know, they will count the fruits and they will, okay, I have 1 banana a day, right?
Yeah.
So the quantity, obviously both quantity and quality, they are important, right? Because if we even have good quality, but we have like small quantity, it's just not enough. It's not enough to have 1 apple a day or 1 banana, or, you know, like, okay, I will have green leafy vegetables once a week, right?
Or some people, they're like, I had my fruit today, and they had a muffin and it had 1 berry on top.
Yeah.
It's like, I had fruit. I had a fruit.
Doesn't work like that.
It's crazy because, like you were saying, with these different fruits and everything, the way it makes us feel. Because I believe it was this morning. Yeah, this morning, our children got up. We have 3 boys, 10, 5, and 3. And our 5-year-old, in the morning, he's a beast. I'll sit there. I gave him a banana, some blueberries, strawberries, maybe some blackberries. He has a bowl full. Everybody has the same amount. His older brother finished. He's sitting there. Dad, can I have an orange? Can I have a banana? Can I have this? Well, yeah, you sure. I'd rather you ask for this instead of candy or chips or something that's bad for you. Eat all the fruit you want. You could have it, whatever you want. You can have whatever you like.
Yeah. One of the greatest things, going back to mindset and what we teach our kids, which is completely different from what at least I was taught as a kid. Like when I grew up, my grandma was like, okay, we're going to Weight Watchers this week, you know, let's go to our meeting, let's get the little slidey card out. And I'm like 8 years old going to a Weight Watchers meeting with my grandma, you know, like every bit of that was like ingrained into my mind growing up. And so that's kind of what I always saw as diet and health and everything else. And so I'm going to shift that mindset and stop telling my kids to count calories and, you know, all of this stuff. So when they see calories and things like that, I tell them, yes, that is the amount of energy in your food. So when you're eating that, you're consuming energy. That's what keeps you running. And so kind of just changing the words and how they're thinking about the food that they're consuming and the drinks that they're consuming.
Let me add to that. Like you were saying, when people always ask you, like when we first started our weight loss journey, keyword I hated being asked, are you on a diet? I hate that D word. I'm like, no, I don't look at veganism or the plant-based as a diet. I consider it, it's a lifestyle. Because when you think of diet, most people, you think, oh, you're not having this, you're missing out on this, you're refraining from this. But with veganism, you have this amount of food and fruits and veggies and legumes and all kind of stuff. You have a multitude of things that you can consume without any worries, as long as you're not frying it and everything else. It's like you have the world at your hands and you can have whatever.
Well, and it's not I can't have either. It's I choose not to eat. You know, it's all about the words and the way that you put that out there.
Yes, and words have power. They do, right? Words, they carry weight, they carry meaning. And I think it's a great example of your story, Ashley, because you know it's moving, right? Like you grow up, you're 8 years old, you learn about diet culture and calories and Weight Watchers. It's like then it's like it's part of the conditioning process. You get conditioned to think, to believe, to talk about like health and fitness in a certain way. And I think it's amazing what you're doing for your children, especially teaching them to reframe like how they think about calories and energy and what they're eating. It's something that we teach, especially with our students in their first level, in their first phase, like kind of like you think like a white belt in martial arts. So their first level program. We do focus on how much they're eating, the quantity, right? You can call the caloric intake, right? Because it's important to make sure, okay, are we actually in a caloric deficit? Are we dropping fat tissue?
Right.
Are we retaining muscle tissue, et cetera, et cetera? Or if they're building muscle, are we building muscle mass? Are we getting stronger, et cetera, et cetera? However, right, with that in mind, once they build the foundation, right, of tracking nutrition, right, that doesn't mean they need to track macros and calories for the rest of their life. Right. And it's almost like a life sentence, right? When you start off, you think like, oh my God, I got to track my calories and macros for the rest of my life. No, that's not sustainable, right? I mean, if you like the numbers, you like tracking, awesome. That's cool. You can do that, right? But if you're someone, I mean, even like us, right? If you want something that's sustainable and practical, right? Get that foundation and then move over to other areas, right? When we, especially how we teach with nutrition, it's not just how much you eat, even though that's really important. It's also what you eat and how you eat, right?
Yeah.
And most of us, especially with how we're eating the same way like we were 5 years ago. When we were 5 years old, right? The same exact way. We eat like really, eating like in 5 seconds, right? Or maybe, we're under eating, or maybe we're eating like secretly, right? Or whatever, right? Like we're carrying those patterns. So until we change how we eat and then what we eat, and then of course, how much we eat, then it's kind of like you're always stuck in this yo-yo cycle where you don't really make the changes.
I like to call that mindful eating, because instead of just, we tend to mindlessly eat. We'll sit there and eat while we watch TV, while we work, and I'm guilty of definitely the eating while I work, trying to get
all
stuff
of us,
done.
Yeah, definitely.
But taking more time to eat mindfully and understand the nutrients that you're putting into your body, focusing on a meal instead of just watching TV, having it as a way of nourishment instead of just because.
Yeah, and enjoyment. Like food is enjoyable.
Yes.
Oh,
like
yes.
it should be a joyful
Yes.
process, right? And yet most of us are seeing it as either one of two things: reward. I got to reward myself with this food, or punishment.
Yeah.
Right? We don't say food should be a joyful activity. We're social creatures, right? Like this interaction, this is social, right? If we were to have a meal right now, that'd be awesome. Let me go grab some food. I'll grab some food right now. Let's eat.
But also when we are actually eating mindfully and slowly, the food tastes differently. Because sometimes it's so interesting. Like if somebody was eating the whole life, like quickly and mindlessly, like you said, then when they actually eat slowly and mindfully, sometimes it's the first time when they actually properly like taste the food, the texture, and how it tastes. And I think if we would compare, if somebody would try to eat slowly, let's say tortilla chips, and then eating slowly, let's say an orange, you would start actually noticing, yeah, I don't like to chew on this tortilla chips for like 2 minutes, but when you have an orange, right? This flavor, you can actually like, yeah, I can, eat it very slowly because it tastes good. So I think also sometimes slowing down the process, we can connect with the food, we can taste it, and we can actually recognize, yeah, probably if I can't eat slowly, maybe it's not the best for me.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
I got a question. Can you tell us, each of you, what it was like whenever you transitioned to a vegan or a plant-based lifestyle? Or before that, what made you want to transition to a plant-based lifestyle?
Sure, you want to start? Good.
Sure. So I'll start with the motivation and then I'll explain the experience. So why I was motivated, primarily more for like, I guess you could say what we spoke about at the beginning of this conversation, which was energetic sensitivity. I started to like feel like more like in my body and my mind. I thought like, wow, like, especially with conversations, Anna and I, we were like, you could say quote unquote dating, but she was living in the UK, I was living in New York, so it was a little bit different. We met online, so that's another story.
Oh, so did we.
Oh, get at it. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, okay. So we spoke for almost a full year, but we never met physically. And then I actually moved to the UK before we like physically met. Yeah. So she had been vegan, or you'd been vegan already for quite a few years already. And she had been like sharing some things, and I was already pescatarian at the time. But I started, especially, there's a meditation center in Brooklyn where I was going to practice every week. And they introduced like kind of this concept, as well as with Anna, this concept of like plant-based meals or vegan meals. And it was interesting because I went there and I'm like, all right, awesome. You know, like, oh, we have a lunch after the meditation. I'm like, oh, count me in. I'm going upstairs. Let's go. I'm like, anytime there's food, let's go. And I went upstairs and, you know, they had the foods there and it was like, oh, well, where's the protein, right? I'm an athlete. I'm like, oh, I gotta keep my muscle. I'm like, all right. And there was like, it was only legumes and grains and vegetables. And I was kind of like very confused. And the way they explained it to me was that, you know, it's basically creating meals that don't cause suffering, right? And I was like, wow, you know, and it started to like sink in deeper for me because I realized it's not just about like talking about compassion, right? It's about actually everybody that we touch with our life and our actions, right? So that was a big impetus for me. And then also with Anna's support. So when I moved to the UK, I mean, you could say revolutionary. And I think Anna and I, we make jokes about this because when I moved to UK, basically there was just such an overwhelming change with like taste and, you know, Anna was like cooking all these amazing vegan meals and I was going crazy because she had all like the like superfood powders. So I would make smoothies, right? So she made one smoothie for me. I'll give you an example. And I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. This is so good. Right? I got so excited, right? So then I started making smoothies myself. I'm like, oh, I want to do this too, right? So I went a little bit too overboard with that. So basically what happened, because she would do like one little teaspoon and put of the powder and then another one, but I didn't know she was doing it like that. So I started to go like, oh, let me put a cup of this, let me put a cup of this. And so basically what ended up happening that first couple of weeks, the smoothies, they were really good. They tasted amazing, right? But they were so intense, like both of us, we had to go to the bathroom so many times.
Then I opened the cupboards, like you went through all the powder.
Yeah, she had powder for like months and I was like emptying them in like a week or two. She's like, these are pricey. I'm like, oh, sorry, they taste good.
You live and you learn.
Yeah.
Did you want to add?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So my journey, actually the main motivation before I even went vegan, I went pescatarian for like around 1 year because I had issue with my skin, with my hormones, so basically health issues. So I was looking for some solution because I didn't want to be all the time on pills. Obviously, go to the doctor, you know the drill, right? You go there, they just give you pills and you take them. But you know, there was a point I realized it just doesn't make sense. I don't want to take pills all my life. So I started looking for solution, and obviously meat and dairy, they came up as things that cause actually hormonal imbalances and skin issues. So I stopped eating those. And then after about 1 year, because I was already open to so many changes, I went already, like my diet was, I was still eating obviously fish and eggs, but I was really like, I was eating more like clean, you could say. So I wasn't eating any processed foods because I thought that, oh my gosh, this is affecting my body. And I came across a vegan documentary, 101 Reasons to Go Vegan. And because I believe that because I was already so open, I watched that and it was like no brainer for me. So I actually went vegan. I didn't even need this period, like some people, they need period of transition. I just decided and I went overnight because it just made sense. And it wasn't one reason. I would say like all of them, they were valid when I realized what's going on in slaughterhouses, also with people. And that's moved me personally a lot, knowing that so many people are dying of hunger, but we have enough food. We produce, like we have enough food, but we feed, you know, we give this food to animals. And then so many people are actually starving to death. And obviously our planet, not mentioning even health. So there were so many reasons that I just, you know, like I said, no brainer, just went immediately. Later on, that's what Gabriel mentioned, is going more in spirituality. And that's what you mentioned, is this emotional, more like sensitivity. I started learning about that later, and I actually noticed changes. But that was after I went vegan. That was so surprising for me to actually feel that.
That's similar to, well, both of y'all collective is similar to our story. I remember I may have been coming from the gym with the kids, and I was listening to a podcast, and the woman said, chicken is the devil. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, chicken is the devil. I love this devil. No, I gotta really start, I gotta pay attention to this. And then I started listening to it. And she started talking about the benefits of a plant-based diet. And then I told Ashley about it. And then I kind of wanted to stick my toe in. I wasn't wanting to go head first in it because she started talking about Thanksgiving. I'm like, I can't have just a little piece of, just a little bit of turkey. And she was like, well, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it right. So we transitioned to pescatarian, and then we would have meatless Mondays and days like that. And then we was like, well, I don't think we really need it. Let's just go full on vegan. And then I remember cutting out sugar, sodas, caffeine. And I remember like 5 days into it, maybe 3, somewhere around 3 to 5 days, I was just feeling awful. I was at work. I felt like I had the flu.
It was
My
like
body,
severe withdrawals.
my body was hurting. I had a migraine. I was just dying. And then I'm telling people, like, man, just go ahead and get you a burger, man. Just get you something to eat. They're like, oh man. They're like, I'm not eating that stuff. Like, man, just go get you something to eat. And then I remember like maybe 2 days later, it just seemed like I was a new person, energetic, and the way I felt and the way my skin was and everything. It's just amazing. And then with that journey, that led us into our business and everything with Vegan Strong and Fit and our fitness and nutrition. And when we do stuff, we go head first. We probably overdo it. Because I remember dropping weight so quick, it was sort of addicting. We look on the scale, oh, I lost 14 pounds, like consecutive weeks. I'm killing it. And then waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, going jogging and walking for like 5 miles every day, and coming home doing workouts 2 and 3 times a day. And then you knock off close to 100 pounds. And then all of a sudden, major activities like major events like George Floyd and all these things that's going down that in my mind is very traumatic and everything. And then us being married, an interracial couple, and you not having that family support where they see that you're hurting and everything, where all that plays with your mindset, like you're saying, everything that you had reprogrammed yourself, and all this stuff starts coming in, nailing you and hitting you hard right here in the heart. And then it throws you off track, and where it's constantly, you're going from this whole food vegan to this junk food vegan, and you're just putting all this stuff in you. You're thinking it's going to comfort you, but it's not. And you know it's not. You try to get back on track, and all of a sudden something else happens, and everything just throws you off until maybe you put on more weight than you had, and then all of a sudden you start focusing on your mindset, your meditation, your spirituality, and everything starts being like, oh my goodness, if I would have known this prior to all this stuff happening, I wouldn't have got off track. And then everything that you've learned and spirituality and all that, you start thinking, it's like, this was meant to happen. It was meant for me to learn all this. That way we could show our clients a better, even more information with the total wellness, the mindset. If they want to go down that rabbit hole into spirituality, whatever you want, we're equipped to help you with all aspects, whether it's nutrition, fitness, wellness, whatever you want to know. We have all the information because we've been through it multiple times. That's why at the beginning of our podcast, we always talk about we're on our new journey. Because this one, we're going to do it nice and slow. We're not going to sit here and try to kill ourselves, because we've had injuries where, what was your injury?
No, yeah, my back gave out. That was lovely. But I think that all, kind of relates in with what we've been talking about here, because as you mentioned, when you're working with your clients, you're going step by step. And I think that's the most important part. And that's what we had to learn the hard way, right? And you're giving that to your clients up front, is that step-by-step process to help them reprogram their mindset and help to pull them in and understand without having to go down that journey, right? So I think that's amazing. And for all of our listeners out here who are looking to work with you guys, because you are 100% online, can you give some more information on where they can find you?
Sure, sure. So our website is veganfitnessredefined.com. You can also find me personally on Facebook at Gabriel Zhanay, and I'm sure Ashley will explain the spelling.
Yes.
And Instagram at Gabriel_Zhanay.
I'm not as active as Gabriel, but you can also find me on both on Facebook and Instagram. It's only Anna Zhanay, so it's also very simple to find. But like I mentioned, Gabriel is more active at the moment.
Perfect. And I will put everything in the comments and the bio there, so all of our listeners can find you guys, because the spelling is definitely different than the pronunciation. That way they can look you up. Really simple. I know you also listed out that you have a masterclass, so can you tell about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So we ran the masterclass, actually it was last week, but we are planning on running another one in August, right? We run like every couple of months we run one. A great turnout. So if you're interested in joining for our next free masterclass, I'll have Ashley drop in. We have a free Facebook community, and then we'll put in the event details and things like that inside of there.
Perfect. Awesome. So everybody go ahead and go check out all of those resources, and be sure to connect with Gabriel and Anna. And we are so glad again to have you on the podcast, and we have really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. We had so much fun.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you for listening to the Strong AF podcast. We hope you really enjoyed this episode.
Just do us a favor, go on the Apple Podcast, leave us a 5-star review, let us know how you enjoyed the episode. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just drop us a couple comments. We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, we always love hearing your feedback, and let us know what you'd like to hear more of as well.